Imagine discovering a shipwreck, sitting almost 2,000 feet beneath the ocean. Not for a few years, not for a few decades, but for more than 300 years, and inside that wreck, there may be gold, silver, emeralds, coins, and objects that once traveled across the Spanish Empire. But here's where the story becomes extraordinary. For centuries, nobody could reach it. Then, in 2015, Colombia announced that it had located one of the world's most famous lost shipwrecks, the San José, and even today, its exact location is treated as a state secret. Because this isn't simply a ship full of treasure, it is an archaeological time capsule, lying in darkness, about 600 meters beneath the Caribbean Sea, and in 2025, Colombian researchers finally recovered some objects from the site for scientific study. So what exactly happened to the San José? How did it sink? How much treasure was really on board? Who owns it? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what is still waiting beneath the sea? This is the story of the San José, the shipwreck that disappeared in 1708 and became one of history's greatest underwater mysteries. The story begins in the year 1708. Europe was fighting the War of the Spanish Succession. Spain was still a major imperial power, and across the Atlantic, ships carried enormous quantities of goods and precious materials between the Americas and Europe. Of these ships was the San José. It was not a small merchant vessel. It was a powerful Spanish galleon, a three-masted warship, a three-masted two cannons. The San José served as the flagship of a Spanish fleet known as the Tierra Firme fleet. Voyage was connected to the enormous flow of wealth extracted from Spanish-controlled territories in the Americas. The ship eventually reached the waters near Cartagena, on the Caribbean coast of what is now Colombia, and then everything changed. 8 June 1708. The Spanish fleet encountered an English squadron near the Colombian coast. The English were commanded by Commodore Charles Wager. That air objective was clear. They wanted to capture Spanish ships, and their valuable cargo battle began. Cannons opened fire. Smoke covered the sea. Wooden ships maneuvered around one another, while sailors and soldiers fought in the middle of the chaos. The San José became one of the main targets, and sometime during the battle, the flagship sank. Hundreds of people died. The ship, along with its cargo, disappeared beneath the Caribbean. But exactly why it sank is still a mystery for more than 3 centuries. The traditional story was that the San José suffered a massive explosion. That explanation became deeply connected to the legend of the wreck. But modern Colombian researchers have begun questioning that versioned historical testimonies do not all agree. Some accounts describe an explosion. Us suggest the ship may have suffered catastrophic damage during the battle, possibly allowing enormous amounts of seawater to enter. In 2025, researchers found an important piece of evidence. A 1708 journal entry from Charles Wager himself suggested that the ship did not simply explode completely into the air. Instead, Wager described a possibility that the ship's sides gave way, allowing the sea to rush inside. Even after more than 300 years, the exact cause of the sinking is still being investigated. The San José had disappeared, but the mystery was only beginning. For centuries, stories about the San José became increasingly legendary. According to historical records and later estimates, the ship was carrying an enormous cargo. Gold, silver, emeralds, coins, ceramics, many other objects connected to the Spanish colonial trade. Some modern reports have described the potential cargo as containing millions of coins, and have suggested a value of billions of dollars. But there is something extremely important to understand. Is no precise modern price tag for the entire wreck, because nobody has recovered and inventoried the entire cargo, and Colombia's archaeological authorities make an important distinction. They do not officially treat the site as a giant pile of money. They treat it as an archaeological context. That difference matters. Imagine finding a 300-year-old coin. Its value isn't only the metal inside it. researchers can study its date, where it was made, how it was used, and how it traveled. The same applies to a porcelain cup, or a cannon or a bottle, or even a fragment of wood. Together, these objects can reconstruct an entire world, and that is what makes the San José so valuable to archaeologists. At more than 600 meters below the surface, there is no sunlight. Everything is dark. Human divers cannot simply swim down and explore the wreck. Instead, researchers use remotely operated underwater vehicles known as ROVs. Equipped with cameras, lights, and scientific instruments, these machines can descend into the darkness, record images, map the seabed, and allow researchers to study objects without physically disturbing the site. And what they have found is extraordinary. Coins, known as macuquinas, bronze cannons, ceramics, glass bottles, storage containers, porcelain, objects associated with everyday life aboard the ship. Some of the porcelain has been particularly fascinating. In 2025, researchers reported that the Chinese porcelain cups associated with the wreck represent an exceptionally well-preserved collection from the Kangxi period, which lasted from 1662 to 1722. That means the wreck isn't simply telling us about Spanish treasure. It is revealing the enormous international trading network of the early 18th century. Materials from the Americas, European ships, Spanish colonial power, and Chinese porcelain all came together in one place, and then the ocean froze that moment in time. For more than 3 centuries, the San José remained hidden, but people never stopped looking for it. And this is where the story becomes almost as complicated as the wreck itself. Because finding the San José was never simply about archaeology, it was also about money, ownership, national sovereignty, and competing claims. In the 20th century, private treasure hunters became interested in the wreck. One US-based group, Sea Search Armada, later claimed that it had identified the wreck in 1982. The company argued that it had rights connected to the discovery. Colombia disputed the claim. This agreement eventually became part of a long-running international legal battle. And then, in 2015, Colombia announced that it had located the San José. The discovery changed everything. The wreck was now confirmed, but its precise coordinates were kept secret. That decision was not accidental. 600 meters below the surface, a wreck like this could become a target for unauthorized treasure hunters. So Colombia treated the site as protected underwater cultural heritage. In 2024, Colombia formally declared the San José archaeological context an archaeological protected area. The government also launched a scientific project called Hacia el Corazón del Galleon San José, roughly towards the heart of the San José Galleon. The first phase was deliberately non-invasive. Researchers used sensors, remote imaging, mapping, and archaeological analysis. They studied more than 461,000 square meters of seabed, an area larger than 40 professional football fields, and they catalogued more than 1,100 objects. This changed the way the wreck was understood. Instead of asking only, "How much treasure is down there?" researchers could ask much more important questions. Where were objects located? How were they distributed? What does their position tell us about the sinking? What was life like aboard the ship? What trade routes connected these objects? And what happened during the final moments of the San José? The wreck was becoming not a treasure hunt, but a scientific investigation. Then came the moment many people had been waiting for. After the initial non-invasive investigation, Colombia moved into a second phase in 2025. Researchers carried out controlled recovery of selected archaeological objects. But this was not a Hollywood-style treasure recovery. No giant chest of gold was brought to the surface. Instead, the researchers carefully selected a small number of objects, because each one could answer scientific questions. Among the recovered material were 3 macuquina coins, a bronze cannon, and 2 complete porcelain cups, along with porcelain fragments and associated sediments and materials. These objects were brought aboard Colombian naval vessels. and then placed into controlled conservation processes. Why? Because after spending more than 300 years underwater, archaeological objects can be extremely fragile. Take the bronze cannon. It had existed in a stable underwater environment for centuries. Simply pulling it out, drying it, and leaving it exposed to air could cause serious deterioration. So conservation specialists carefully controlled the transition. The cannon was kept wet and stored under controlled conditions. The coins and porcelain were also carefully preserved. Researchers can now study them in ways that are impossible from a photograph. The metal can reveal information about its composition. The coins can help establish chronology and circulation. The porcelain can reveal manufacturing traditions, trade routes, and connections between different parts of the world. And the sediment surrounding an object can contain clues of its own. It can help scientists understand how the archaeological site formed, how objects moved after the sinking, and how the underwater environment changed over time. This is why archaeologists repeatedly emphasize the goal is not simply to recover treasure, it is to recover information, because once an archaeological site is disturbed, some of that information can disappear forever. But there is another question, perhaps even more controversial than the treasure itself. Who owns the San José? Spain considers the San José a Spanish state vessel, and Spanish authorities have argued that it should be treated as a protected underwater military grave, rather than a commercial treasure site. Colombia, however, has asserted its rights over the wreck and has protected it under Colombian law. There is the claim made by Sea Search Armada, which has argued that its earlier discovery gives it rights connected to the wreck. And there is another dimension to the story. Indigenous communities in South America have also raised concerns about the origins of the wealth carried by the ship. Some of the precious metals came from mines in territories that were under Spanish colonial ruled. Representatives of indigenous communities have argued that their ancestors were exploited in the extraction of these resources, and that their historical connection should be considered in decisions about the wreck. So when people say, "This is the world's richest shipwreck," they are talking about much more than gold. They are talking about colonial history, national identity, archaeological heritage, ownership, and the lives of the people connected to the objects beneath the sea. And that is why recovering the entire San José is not simple. It requires archaeology, robotics, oceanography, conservation, law, history, and international diplomacy. And despite everything researchers have learned, the San José still keeps many secrets. How much cargo was actually on board? Exactly how did the ship sink? How many people were lost? How much of the vessel remains buried beneath the seabed? And what objects are still hidden beneath the sediment? Colombian researchers believe that much of the ship's structure remains buried. Only part of the wreck is visible, and the underwater environment continues to change the site. Currents, marine life, sediment, and time are constantly reshaping the archaeological landscape. That means the San José is not a frozen photograph, it is a living archaeological site. Every new investigation can reveal something different. Cannon can tell us about weapons technology. A coin can reveal economic history. A cup can reveal global trade. A piece of wood can tell researchers about shipbuilding. A fragment of rope can provide evidence about everyday work on board. Together, these tiny pieces can reconstruct the final journey of a ship that disappeared more than 3 centuries ago. So, is the San José really the world's richest shipwreck financially? We cannot know the exact answer. There are enormous estimates, and there may indeed be a huge quantity of valuable material still beneath the sea. But archaeologically, the answer is much clearer. The San José is priceless because it preserves evidence of a world that no longer exists. A world where Spanish ships crossed the Atlantic, where American silver and gold entered global trade, where European empires competed for power, and where objects from completely different parts of the world ended up together on one ship for more than 300 years. The Caribbean kept that story hidden. Colombia found it, and now, instead of simply opening a treasure chest, scientists are slowly opening a chapter of history, piece by piece, coin by coin. artifact by artifact. Perhaps that is the most valuable treasure of all, because gold can be measured in dollars, silver can be weighed, or emeralds can be sold. But once the historical information inside an archaeological site is destroyed, it can never be recovered. The San José sank in 1708, but more than 300 years later, its story is finally returning to the surface. But the ocean floor still holds the majority of its secrets, and somewhere, about 600 meters beneath the Caribbean, the remains of the San José are still waiting. So here's the question. If billions of dollars may still be sitting beneath the sea, but the wreck itself is an irreplaceable piece of human history, should we recover the treasure? Or should we leave the San José where it has rested for more than 300 years? What would you choose? Leave your answer in the comments.